Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of our Euro 2020 review show. Today I've got Wasim with me again, who's become a constant on the show along with Ahmed Faraaz Parker. And then we are honored, to say the least, to have my good friend Jason Ronnie on the show. Welcome, Jason.
Good day, sir. Good day, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to finally have you on. Between the four of us, you probably have the better soccer pedigree. So no pressure, but we're hoping for some good insight from you.
That's fine. That's fine. Hopefully, I don't cause too much controversy today. We'll see.
Yeah, that's actually what we're hoping for. And look, so with the Euros, the group stages have wrapped up, and I think it was a really eventful finish. Group F was fantastic. Group, everyone calls it the group of death, and I think just the way it ended was quite fitting. Having each team in with a chance up until almost the end of both games. So I think what we'll do is we'll just work our way backwards like we've been doing in the past, and I think for me, starting with Group F, for me, I think France were one of the better teams going into the tournament, and I think they did fairly well to cement that their favorite stag. There are other teams that are obviously challenging them for that, but I think France did really well. So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys, Wasim. We'll start with you. Who do you think the best team was from the group stages?
For me, it was from the group stages. My best team I would rate as Italy. I felt that they played with such flair and positivity that they were really good to watch, but they were also very dangerous whenever they went forward. So they were my team of the tournament thus far, based on the group stages. But I think there are other teams as well who've had a very good starts. Netherlands have also been someone who a lot of people said that they, having not been at the last World Cup and the last Euros, we weren't sure as how they were going to do, and they've come through with flying colors. So those two are definitely my best teams from the group stages in terms of their performance. But France did well, and there are other teams as well to look out for. But I think for me, those two teams are my standouts thus far.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Italy. I'm so bleak that I didn't state at the beginning that's my team. I went with France as my pick at the beginning, but I do support the Italian team. So now it just looks like I'm jumping on the bandwagon. But they were really good. I was quite impressed, and I've been a bit out of touch with the Italian team. So it's nice to have get to know some of these new players and see kind of a different breed. It's not a whole lot of superstars. It's more a solid team, which is a bit different to their approach, in the past. Jason, for you, what have you seen in the group stages? Which team stands out for you?
Yeah, I think that I'll have to agree with Wasim. Italy looked like they just came with a specific plan, and that was just to win the game. I mean, everybody comes with that plan, but they looked so assured while actually doing it. Getting some good goals, looking very defensively sound. The team for me, I think, was Netherlands. Just for their recent history and underperforming at many major competitions, I think it was good to see them actually come out, do well, get the goals. Maybe the first game leaked a few, but after that showed really that true pedigree. And so, yeah, I think Netherlands for me, Italy. I think we expect Belgium nowadays to do what they do, to make it out the group stage, get to a minimum quarterfinal. So that was expected. But yeah, Netherlands, Italy for me.
Yeah, Belgium, number one ranked team in the world. So you do expect good things from them. The experienced group as well. And they have, individually some great world beaters in their unit. But with Netherlands, I think a couple of episodes we've touched on it a bit, and it's the managerial situation with Frank de Boer is not seen by many pundits as being a very good manager. He's had obviously some failed club stints at various clubs, and I don't know if you just want to weigh in on that. Do you think that obviously in the group stages, I don't think they were tested really, but his management, is that helping the team perform, or is it just down to the players actually pitching up, and not so much his influence?
Um, I think it's a bit of both. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, they have their influence. I think the players, they have their influence. I think the management, 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 they have I'd like to believe that it is manager's input. I think what he brings is experience, brings pedigree, brings similar playing tournaments, having been a player himself. So I think they have a good crop of players, which helps him. I think maybe defensively they don't have as much as we expected, with maybe the likes of De Ligt and Blind not really going together as we once thought they would. But I do think it's more 60-40 players. If you throw that group of players together, and Holland, Netherlands, they've been very efficient in how they play over the years. So it's that identity, and now it's just matching up with the current crop of players they have. So I think it's 60-40 players, and then Frank de Boer's influence.
Yeah, so you mentioned Daily Blind, Ahmed Faraaz, someone you mentioned before as being very integral to the Dutch success, because with his experience, you felt that he controls the game and controls that backline. How do you see his influence over these games now and going forward? Do you think he can still have that same impact he had in the first game?
Definitely. I see him as a genius of the game. He sees things quite openly from the back. His view of the game is quite good. I was really sad that he ended up getting sold from Manchester United, because I think he's such a good defensive player. And yeah, he's shown it so far in the group stages. We spoke about him being taken off in that first game, and it didn't really work out that well because they conceded immediately after he was taken off, and it hasn't happened again. It just shows you like how good he is at reading the game. And I think his link up with Gini Wijnaldum as well. Like there's a lot of passes and player link up between him and Wijnaldum, if you've watched the three group games. So the understanding is quite integral to the success of the Netherlands team. And then I just want to mention Memphis Depay. Like, he's been my favorite player of the group stages. His movement has been good. It's been fluid. His chemistry with the players has been good. And yeah, like he just looks like he's on top of everything. Every time he gets the ball, he looks like he's going to make something happen.
In American sport, they call that that type of player somebody who's playing in their contract year. They overperform because they're trying to find a new club or a new contract. So it's going to be interesting to see if Barcelona gets this version of Memphis or the Memphis, of previous seasons, because sometimes these players, they overperform to get that contract, Obama, and then you don't actually see that again after they've signed the deal. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see. And I think, just to throw it to Wasim, obviously having watched Wijnaldum at Newcastle and then move on to Liverpool, is it fair to say that Wijnaldum is a bit underrated?
Definitely. When he was at Newcastle, he scored a lot of goals, and I think he scored like 11 goals from midfield in that season, and we got relegated that season. So it was a very poor performing team, but yet he could get double figures from midfield. So he always seemed to have that ability to score goals when in the box, or when, just in and around the box. So when he went to Liverpool, I think he probably was used more defensively to do some dirty work for the team, which he did excellently. And I mean, they achieved great success because of that. But so you can't really fault Klopp for the way he utilized Wijnaldum. But for me, he is underrated in the fact that if you put him in the box, he will score a lot of goals, because he's just got that natural ability to finish off in style, and he knows where the net is. So for me, if you utilize him the way Holland are doing now, and the way he played for Newcastle, okay, he scored many goals at home, but if you put him in and around the box, trust me, he will score a lot of goals. And I think that's what makes the Netherlands exciting, is because they've got the pie. Now they've got Wijnaldum running in from midfield, a few others also. So they're really exciting, and it's because of Wijnaldum and his ability to influence the game from midfield, running into the box and creating chances and scoring chances.
Yeah, he's definitely an integral part of their success. And I find it, but and Girona make this into a club thing. But I mean, like at Liverpool, for example, he was probably one of the most durable players. He's always on the park, and there's value in that. He has ability to pitch up in the right place at the right time, make the right run. always be open for the right pass, those types of things. And yeah, I definitely think that if the Netherlands are going to go far in this tournament, it's going to be through his performances, and maybe those around him will have to just support him, but it all goes through him, basically. So Ahmed Faraaz, you mentioned you've been quite impressed with which player you've been quite impressed. Jason, any players that have stood out from the group stage for you?
I think we look at Kevin De Bruyne's performance against Denmark, and we see the value of having someone like that coming off the bench. I think a special mention has to go to Emil Forsberg from Sweden.
Yeah.
So Sweden coming to the tournament, obviously there was the big thing about Zlatan being back, and then he got injured, and then they were wondering where it was going to come from, and then they put all the hopes on, I think it's Isaac, who plays up front.
Yeah.
And so far he hasn't scored. He's done very well, created lots of opportunities, but looking at the guy like Forsberg actually showing up and actually putting the ball in the back of the net, been a very surprise package for me. I do like Lukaku as well.
Yeah.
Just I think the season that he's spent now in Italy under Conte, it's just completely refined him. He's come out a more complete striker, and you can see that's helping Belgium a lot. With him up front, they now have the confident option, if I can say that. It's not like, okay, play the ball to him and maybe his first touch lets him down, maybe he doesn't pick the right pass. But now I think there's more assurity in his decision making. So so those are my two players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
really stood up three even.
Yeah. With winning, I mean, that confidence comes, and it's nice for Belgium to have that. Obviously, De Bruyne is a generational talent. I mean, he comes on for a couple of minutes and he can make a big difference. His fitness will obviously be important for Belgium going forward. Ahmed Faraaz, for you, having watched Lukaku obviously playing as a United player, and to see this version of him now, have you also been impressed?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Mubin mentioned in the last episode that he wasn't really that happy with Lukaku being sold, and yeah, I'd echo that completely. He's, like Jason said, now a complete striker. There's almost a surety when passing him the ball that something's going to be converted, and it is sad as a United supporter to see him flourish like this. But yeah, like he looks hungry. Even his body physique, like he looks ripped. He looks fit. Yeah, he just looks a complete player at the moment.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I think just on that, Ziyaad, if you think you're sad as a United fan, think about Chelsea, who had De Bruyne, they had Lukaku, they had Salah, they had, I think it was Eden Hazard as well. So yeah, being a United fan is hard, but being a Chelsea fan is even worse.
Yeah, look with Hazard, I think they got some good years out of him. The rest, I don't know so much. And it's all about timing, man. If you're in the right place at the right time with the right manager, it's a completely different story. Wasim, for you, any players that you want to point out?
Yeah, I've got a few that I want to point out. So I want to go with Patrick Schick. I mean, he arguably scored the goal of the tournament thus far. He's got 3 goals for an unfancy Czech Republic team, so definitely deserves a mention. Then we need to mention 2 players who played last night who really stood out for me. Renato Sanchez. 5 years ago, he was touted as the most exciting young talent in world football. Then his career he went to Bayern, and his career never took off from there. And I've followed him since then, and I've taken a lot of stick from certain individuals regarding that, because I've backed him then and he's turned out to not be successful. But then he went to Lille and did well there, and now he's back in the Portugal side, and he started his first game yesterday in the tournament and he made a massive difference. He really was impressive, standing up against Kante and Pogba, and he really took them on and probably came out the better in terms of the performance overall. So he impressed me, and even the 2 cameo performances that he made from the bench in the previous games, he also had an impact. So for me, he's been impressive. Then Paul Pogba from France also has been impressive. His through ball yesterday for the Benzema goal was sublime. He did a similar thing in the first game, and he's really taken his form that he showed in patches with Man United. He's taken that and he's really taken it to another level with France. And then Dumfries from Netherlands also. From right back, I think he's someone that's probably going to be in the shop window because he's playing for PSV at the moment, and the way he's playing currently, he's going to get a move to a better team. And so those are my players of the tournament thus far. But obviously, it's a long way to go. But they've been impressive so far.
So, Wasim, no love for Dubravka?
Yeah, it was embarrassing yesterday because when he made the penalty save, again, I started celebrating and sending messages to the different WhatsApp groups. What a goalkeeper, what a save. And then all of a sudden he made a mistake which I've never seen him make before in his career. So I suppose it's the big stage getting to you and the nerves, and the cameras are all focused on you, and he ended up making a silly mistake. And then from there, it just got worse because then that raised the confidence of Spain, and then they started playing with a swagger, and everything that they did yesterday ended up in a goal. So it was a very sad day for me, but yeah.
Yeah, look, it's one of those things that just shifts the momentum. Yeah, it's just one of the turning points, and once your confidence drops, it's just hard to come back from that. Yeah, Dumfries very interesting right back. Some teams around the world do need they have a hole at right back, so it'll be interesting to see if he does make a move again. Money's tight at the moment for a lot of clubs, so these guys' values are just going up, but I don't know if anyone can actually afford them. You look at Atalanta, Robin Gosens as well, who's been fantastic. If you're gonna, can you afford to pay 60 mil for him? I don't know. Maybe that's a discussion for another day. But Wasim, I agreed with you definitely in terms of Pogba. I think he's gone a bit under the radar, to be honest, because he just does what people expect of him, and then there's nothing, there's no real flowers given to him because he's just doing what he's supposed to do because he's world class. It's when he doesn't perform that everyone jumps on him, and like you're saying, those through balls, fantastic. I don't know, a bit of a dig here at Giroud, but would Giroud make that same run, Jason? And also, just to add to that quickly, what have you seen from Pogba in his midfield role with France, which is different to that with United?
Okay, firstly on Giroud, I think we would have seen a bit more from Griezmann if he had played. I think Benzema and Griezmann do very well together, but I think Griezmann does better when Giroud is playing. If that makes any sense. I think for the Pogba case, I was just watching the game last night, and it's looking like Pogba of old. Pogba from Juventus, where he was just playing with the freedom. I think maybe playing with a guy like Kante gives you that freedom, gives you that confidence to know to actually, okay, let me go forward because we've got Kante 1, Kante 2, who probably covers that midfield. Like there's a 3-man midfield behind Pogba. So I think for me, who's always loved Pogba, just him playing, enjoying his football, it was so nice to see. I think at United, maybe the structure isn't set up to actually promote his brilliance. I think everything goes towards Bruno Fernandes now recently, and then if it's not that, then there's maybe not enough support surrounding Pogba. So I don't know. I don't want to talk about that when Arsenal are in shambles as well. So I can't talk too much about other clubs, but yeah.
Hey, this is the time of the season where we can put that away, and just hide behind the countries that we support.
Potentially that, yeah. But yeah, out little bit of a sad spot for Giroud. I think what he's done over the few years when Benzema hasn't been playing, it's so understated, and now obviously he's just thrown to the back, golf carts and Ferraris.
At the end of the day, when you're the best option available, it looks different too, because Benzema was never considered for selection, right? And now that he worked his way back in, you started looking at it and you realize the big difference there is between the two. Because at the end of the day, Benzema is a world-class striker. He's been at Madrid for several years and he's been successful. So there is a touch of class there that is a bit different. Okay, so we're going to move on now. And for the next segment, I think I'm going to kick us off because I want to talk about the teams that have been disappointing. And for me, it has been Turkey. Very disappointed with Turkey. I mean, at the beginning, I was, saying that they could upset the apple cart a little bit. And I think they have some good players, especially in defense. They had players from Lille who won the French league. So you think all of that's going to come together and they're going to do well, but they underwhelmed. I think in that first game against the Italians, they were just shell shocked. They were defending as deep as Burnley defend, and there was just no way you can bounce back from that, because once they conceded, they had no answers. And there was a little bit of fight from them, and that just disappeared. And with each game, they just got considerably a weaker. So yeah, quite disappointed with Turkey. Ahmed Faraaz, for you, any disappointments other than Spain in the first two games?
I agree with you with Turkey. Like, I think everybody just like labeled them the dark horses and like thought that they were going to cause some sort of upset in this tournament, and that just backfired completely. But even though they qualified, Germany disappointed me a bit. Like they didn't really perform that well in the first game. Then they hit the ground running in the second game and were amazing. But then last night as well, they just looked like the hunger was gone. It looked like they underestimated Hungary, and yeah, like it just didn't look like a proper German performance. And then their blushes were saved at the end with that Goretzka goal.
Yeah, Germany is quite interesting because from what I can see, they're very stuck or very rigid with their system. They're going to play a certain way and they're not going to change for anything. So if the opposition prepare well for that system, then they could potentially exploit the weaknesses. But with Portugal, for example, their system worked perfectly because Portugal, for some reason, their defenders didn't pitch up. And now everyone's talking about Nelson Semedo as someone who can't defend. But I mean, if you're at that level, you should be able to do something. So yeah, it's interesting with Germany. Their system, they're very stuck with it, and they also a bit, stuck with the old system and the old players and the new players, and bringing Matt Hummels back, for example, who hasn't been great in this tournament, to be fair. So yeah, Germany's going to be one to watch, and we'll touch on that a bit later. So Wasim, for you, which team disappointed you the most?
For me, it was not going to harp on it again, but it was Slovakia. Besides Turkey being very disappointing, and we all spoke about that, and there were a lot of people's dark horses, but they disappointed. But apart from Turkey, Slovakia were very disappointing. The reason being, they won the first game through the referee sending off a very Poland player very harshly, I felt, but that swung the game for them, and they managed to win the game. So I thought, okay, after one game, they've got 3 points in the bag. They just need a point or two, and they should be through. And the way they played the games thereafter, Sweden, they failed to score. Spain, they failed to score, and obviously capitulated yesterday and conceded 5. But the fact is, they've got some good players in their squad, Skriniar and Hamsik, and players who've done well recently. So for them to have just not attacked as much in both games after the win was disappointing. And then obviously for them to concede and defend as hopelessly as they did, that was also a concern. So for me, Slovakia was very disappointing.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I mean, they did start strong, and you think maybe with the format of the tournament, they kind of probably relaxed because they thought, we've got one win. We just need a point, like you said, and we'll go through. And unfortunately, that didn't materialize. You did mention Poland as well. And unfortunately for Lewandowski, his teammates are just not good enough to take him further. But he's, an elite striker, which he showed last night. Yeah, a tough one for him. Jason, for you, which team were you disappointed with?
So you had just touched on the Polish team. That was my first team. But like you say, Lewandowski can't carry that whole team. He obviously did his bit with those 2 goals last night, but if you're going to concede, then what are you going to do? Also, maybe a little controversial. I think England made it through, scraped through, I think. So much like the German team, they've got so much skill. They've got quite a lot of players that are playing at a very high level, and you'd expect them to at least get a convincing win in the tournament, but it hasn't been convincing. It's been far from that, actually. And I think the matchup going into that last 16 with them up against Germany, it's going to be such a great game because both teams underperforming in that group stage, having to now actually step up and see which team manages that bit of pressure best. So that would be my 2 teams, man.
I think there was
Go for it.
I think there was a stat that I read last night, where it stated that England qualify as they qualify top of the group as the team that scored the lowest amount of goals in the group stages, like in the history of the tournament. So I mean that sums them up.
Yeah, I mean they've underwhelmed in terms of their attacking prowess, and we thought, you know, the likes of Kane, Sancho, Foden, Grealish, all these guys that they're going to be scoring goals
Saka.
left, right, and center. Yeah, Saka, good mention. Didn't expect him to play the other day, and then he was the man of the match. So England have depth, but I also feel that they're playing in a way, and I don't want to harp on it too much. I think we can come back to it at some point, but I think they're just playing tournament football. They're playing tight. They don't want to make mistakes, and if they're gonna win 1-0, they're quite happy to win 1-0. They're not there to you know, put 5 past the opposition. They're just doing what needs to be done to progress, which is a bit different to how they've approached things in the past. And you know, speaking of England and Germany, they're taking on each other in the next round. Um, England do have, might be controversial to say, but they have the easy side of the draw. You know, if they get through, just looking at the fixtures, if they get through Germany, they take on the winner of Sweden, Ukraine. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but in comparison to what's on the other side, they might have a better route through to the final, because you're looking at the Dutch, Czech Republic, Wales, Denmark. Those are the teams that they could come up against later. So if they do get past the Germans, I think they're going to be in with a good chance of getting to the final. Whereas I think the other side of the draw has Belgium, Portugal, Italy, France, Croatia, Spain, Switzerland, Austria. There's a lot more teams on that side that you wouldn't want to face, you know, for as long as possible. So looking at it, yeah, I think England have a good chance to get through. Whoever wins that game, England or Germany, I think they probably are gonna make it through to the final. Even though the Dutch are on that side of the draw as well. So Wasim, for you, do you see England getting all the way to the final, or do you feel that the Dutch or the Germans have a better chance on that side of the draw?
I feel England are going to make it to the final this time. Reason being is, as you mentioned, they play tournament football, but also they've got a very poor record against Germany in knockout competitions. So I feel that everyone is now expecting, or a lot of English fans are expecting Germany now to knock them out, as they have done so many years ago. But I think that eventually is going to change. And this is a young crop of English players who don't really have that fear of, oh no, it's, you know, we're going to get knocked out by the Germans, the mighty Germans. They don't have that stigma with them. So I feel that England, they will do what is needed to get past Germany, who I feel are a good side, but they have weaknesses and they probably can be beaten. So then if England then get past Germany, I feel they'll do what is needed to get past the other teams as well. And the Netherlands probably is a team that they could face in the semis, but I feel England will beat them as well. So this is a good chance for England, because also they are playing at home and all their games are going to be at home. So home factor is going to be another thing to consider. And so for me, I feel England will make the final. But I'm not a big English fan, so I'm not hoping they make the final, but I am thinking that is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, it just looks like things are in their favor. And if we just turn our attention to the other side of the draw, Ahmed Faraaz, there's a lot of games there that are like, you know, potential finals. For example, Belgium, Portugal. If you saw that as the final for Euro, you know, it would be expected. So from that side of the draw, who do you think has the best chance to come through and potentially take on the likes of England in the final?
Look, I'm going to go with my pick of France, like winning the Euro. I'm still going to stick by that. I think now with knockout football, they're just going to feed on that and try to win every match, even if it's going to be by a 1-0 margin, like you said earlier with England. But yeah, like you said, potential finals, Belgium versus Portugal is going to be a really good spectacle. Spain, Croatia, I think is going to be good as well. Croatia actually looks like they've hit their stride now. So it's going to be a huge test for Spain. But yeah, I still think that France is going to ride the wave and go to the final.
Yeah, France and England in the final could be quite interesting. I'm rooting for Italy. Jason, as we wrap up, as Ahmed Faraaz mentioned, we picked France at the beginning. So myself, Ahmed Faraaz and Wasim, it was a clean sweep. We picked France as a potential victors for Euro. who did you side with, and how do you see things playing out?
So from the start, my pick has been Germany. After the first game, I wanted to change. I realized I couldn't, so I had to stick with them after that shoddy showing. Second game made me feel a bit better. Third game, not as much. But yeah, I'm sticking with Germany. I have a feeling. I think Joachim Löw wants to leave this team in possibly a good stead. And I think with everything that's happened over the years and everything that's come to fruition within that German team, I think Germany actually have what it takes. I think England, yeah, I think it's maybe the media that hyped them up as always. So yeah, I think maybe that German experience, maybe Muller coming in, maybe Matt Hummels, this is why he's there, for that experience that he brought in that World Cup win. So yeah, gonna stick to Germany. Whether it comes through, I don't know, but we'll have to see.
Okay, so I think we're gonna line this up nicely. So if Germany win, I'm gonna play this clip again, just to show that you
Perfect.
predicted it. But if not, we'll bury it. So don't worry about it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And you're right. You're right. The English media have done a good job of hyping the English up and creating expectation. But I think the English are good for it. They haven't had such a deep squad in a very long time, and I think one of the biggest stories that's making its rounds now, as we wrap up, is that Gareth Southgate was the one who missed the penalty back in Euro. I think it was '96. So it's Southgate. The media's doing a good job again. It's Southgate's chance to redeem himself. And on that note, guys, thanks for your time. Looking forward to the knockouts, and we'll be back here to see who's left standing after the round of 16.